everyone. So this is going to be a short, quick video to introduce getting started with drawing with pen. Here I've got a selection of pens, and you can choose to work with any of these or just use what you have. So the first choices for you guys in school or at home will be just your basic ballpoint pens. And there's nothing wrong with using those, but you're going to see in a minute why you might not really choose these as your first choice, but there's nothing wrong with using this if this is what you have. Then I've got some ink flow pens that are either the Precise Pilot pen or a Uniball. And then I also do have a Sharpie, so if you happen to have Sharpies at home, that'd be fine. But you really, for these assignments, need to have the Sharpie with the sharp fine point, the ultra fine or fine point. This is the extra fine, as you can see. You don't want the thick, chunky kind, you know, like your standard Sharpie, like we have in the classroom. That's really not going to work for this assignment. And then your final choice, for some of you, this is a more expensive drawing ink pen. It's actual archival ink, which means it does not fade and it's waterproof. These you can find in art stores. They're a bit pricier per pen, about $3 per pen. For this exercise though, if you do have a micron or something like this, you want the thicker point, like the 5. For this particular assignment that you guys are going to be working on. So I'm just going to show you the difference just with a couple of lines first on this printout of our paper. The ballpoint pens, you know, it's not, yes, the ink is wet, but it's not that really jet black ink that's quite wet and has flow out of the tip. You know, it has that metal tip instead of some of them are a felt tip. So that's what that looks like, right? Then here's my Pilot pen, which you can already see, like even the way it flows, you know, it's not as consistent out of the pen, but it is, at least from what I can see on screen, it is darker. It's a darker pen and a finer line. So I enjoy that. And then here is my Uniball. The Uniball is a bit thicker. It's really jet black. And that's actually the one that I'm going to use for this assignment. That's my preference. And then here's the Sharpie. And, you know, we kind of know what Sharpies can do. And that might be nice as well. But it definitely bleeds more than the others. Like if I let the pen sit at all, it starts to bleed. So the line gets a little scratchy looking. And then here's the Micron, which the Micron I like too, and I use for a lot of my drawings. There's more control, and the way the ink flows off of that little felt tip point is really quite nice. But I want to show you kind of the in-between pen, the one that you can get in most stores, and it's accessible to you for this assignment. So you guys should have this printout in class. What you're going to do is in page 7 of your visual journal, so let me make sure you can see that down here. You're going to divide your paper in half. Now, you don't have to put a line down the middle, but half of the page is going to be dedicated to this idea of constructive or directional lines that are all straight lines but change direction and stay consistently spaced. So we'll look at what that means in a second. And then the top one is where you're going to really have some fun and go to town with all different kinds of lines, changing the line weight, the style of line, direction, quality, type, all of that. So that's going to go on the top half of my page. So just a couple of basics with a pen. You want to be sure where you're going to put your stroke down. You want to be resting your arm and hand on your page. And again, your grip should not be, I'm about to write something and straight up and down, but similar to what you guys have been learning with a pencil. And I'm just going to come and I'm going to add to this what I've started. And again, pick a certain number of lines, and you're going to practice a slow, steady speed of drawing really consistent, straight, even lines. You can go back over it if it's not right where you want it to be. And I'm just going to go across my page and decide where to start. If I know I'm going to be bending the line, then I stagger, and you'll see a second why. I stagger the ends of the line to be on a diagonal instead of at the same place. So again, what you're practicing here is even, clear spacing of line, having the same line weight, and having your lines be fairly even in terms of not wavering and not being too blotty where you stop the pen and start again. So now I'm going to come in and just have some fun. Continue with this idea of I am just changing the directions of my lines for just this interwoven look. So what I can do, and what I want you guys to realize is, you know, if I want to bend this line, like let's say I want to arc it back this way or up this way. I've staggered them on a diagonal so that I can do that. But instead of me trying to bend my hand in a really awkward way, I need to keep my arm and hand straight with my pen. I'm going to pick up the end of that line and I'm just going to start going in the new direction that I want this new turn to be in. If I need to extend the end of that line a little bit, I will. You know, just trying to pick that up really smoothly and consistently. Again, I'm trying to keep the spacing as even as possible. So that's really important for this exercise. And this is just going to help you warm up with some basic, you know, pen and ink techniques. It's as far as even just dealing with what do you do when your hand wobbles? How do you handle that? How do you handle extending a line that you've already broken the pen stroke? Because this is really about pen stroke, where I'm practicing where I start my pen stroke and stop, and how fast I move my pen across my paper before I stop that stroke. Is there a little bleed on the end of my stroke? Have I gone off a little bit? And maybe I'm not going to finish this. I want to bring this back to this point. So I might have to extend this one to continue this idea this way, like that. So you can see how I'm turning my page. I'm being very careful with how I connect my pen stroke to the pen stroke I've already completed to then be able to bring the line down parallel in the same direction as my other ones. So the idea of this is that you have a grouping of lines that then bends and weaves around itself. And you're just going to continue this idea to fill this whole bottom part of your page. Then you're going to come up here and you're going to start to play. This is where you can be a little bit more fun and creative and free with what you do with your lines. So if you want to start off the top of your page up here, you know, let's say I want to start with actually a semicircle arc and I actually want to make a really thick line. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to start by making a line like this where I'm actually in a way drawing a shape, but I'm going to fill that in with my ink, with my pen, to make it a really thick, bold line. So that's another thing to practice with the ink pen, is how do I actually create a really thick weight line? And sometimes it's not by just keep drawing over the line. It is draw two lines and fill in the middle so that it just looks like a really thick, chunky. And I'm just being really careful to keep all of my pen strokes within the borders of what I just drew. That's a really important thing with ink, is stopping and starting the stroke where it needs to and not having any overhangs. All right, so keep an eye on that as well. So hopefully this will get you guys started in terms of just, again, practicing some of those basic techniques. So let's say, you know, from here I want to kind of, I like some of the ideas I see on this page, so you can pick up on this, but change it and make it your own. So I like that there's really bold lines and then squiggly lines. So I might pick up on that and see, well, how does it look as I start to move my pen like this, but take my time and make sure that that line is really nice and solid and doesn't break. And, you know, I just keep going with this idea. Do I do something in the middle here that's some kind of pattern? Maybe I want some kind of broken line like that. Some kind of look that starts to look a bit more like a pattern, but it's also still that idea of line, just variety of line. All right, so hopefully that will get you guys started. Just use what you have at hand and make sure you're filling the majority of this page. This will be filled in and this will be filled in with all of my directional lines to really make a complete page where I have fully explored how to best use my pen to create a variety of line and control. All right, stay tuned for the next one.